All right, welcome to those of you on the replay. I am so excited for our guest this evening. I've got to find him. Chris, can you go ahead and put your hand up so I can find you in the crowd here? Oh, Sid found him. All right, I'm gonna
I'll
join
try.
him.
Okay, you found me.
Yeah, we gotcha. All right.
Trying to find where to put my hand up.
No, you're good. We found you. Sid found you. All right. I want to go ahead, Chris, and I want to introduce you officially here. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to read these accolades. And I was reading these before and I'm like, oh, this guy's good, good. So Chris Leake here, additionally to being my friend, is an agency director. He's a national elite producer. He was the #3 overall Symmetry rookie producer in 2020. In the Danny Young hierarchy, he was the #1 overall producer in 2021. He has done $1.3 million in lifetime personal sales. His agency has done over $11.7 million in sales. He's the creator of the Mortgage Protection Sales Mastery course that we have recently really started promoting that has been used by over 4,100 Symmetry agents. You are, by every measure, Chris, an expert at life insurance sales. I'm really, really excited to have you on here, man.
I'm excited to be here. Thanks so much for having me, Jim. It's an honor, and I tell you what, we throughout my agency and myself personally specifically have so much respect for this team here. Jim, for you and your leadership, for all the incredible leaders you have in this organization. I've got the Pearsons on the call and you've got the Bushes and Watts of the world and so many amazing leaders come out of this organization. We watch you guys, we follow you, we learn from you, we've been challenged by you, yeah, just so deeply appreciative of this team, guys. Those of you who are brand new, like you don't even know how lucky you are to have landed in this spot in this agency, but you are in an incredible place here. So plug in.
Love that, man. I appreciate that. Can you kind of give us your story? There's a lot of people. I know you and I got to sit in Mexico for a few hours and really just kind of get to know each other there a little bit. But most people on this call have never had that opportunity, Chris. So give us your story. What brought you into life insurance sales in the first place?
Yeah, well, didn't ever expect to be here like many of us. So first of all, Chris Leake, I'm out of Fresno, California. I am direct to Steven Jackson in the Eric Ondrick, Darren Stubbs, Tony Capistrano, Kyle and Lisa Cambrell, Ashley Tarr, Danny Young hierarchy. Very grateful to be so. Yeah, so I've been with Symmetry for 5 years now. Started in March of 2020, right as the pandemic hit. But my background, Jim, I came out of college and spent 9 years in vocational Christian ministry. So I was a youth pastor at a church for a couple of years. And I saw Amber, someone mention Oaxaca there. You see it behind me. I lived down in southern Mexico for almost 7 years. Loved it. Moved back to the US, here to Fresno in 2011. No idea kind of what I was going to do with my life at that point. It was supposed to be temporary, and that was over 14 years ago. Here we are. And I got into online business and kind of got bitten by the entrepreneurship bug, started building businesses at that time. So built a couple of different e-commerce companies. Um, Sold a ton of stuff on Amazon, did a lot of digital marketing, did a lot of business consulting for other e-commerce businesses, dabbled in real estate a little bit. So I was all over the map with a few different businesses. Really enjoyed that season of life, enjoyed all the e-commerce stuff. But I learned one thing along the way in my e-commerce career, and it was that you can make a lot of money really fast in e-commerce. And you can also have a business fall off a cliff really fast. And I've been through both cycles of that a couple of times. 2019 was a pretty tough year in the businesses. And so I came into 2020 with a pile of debt. I was the sole income earner for a family of six. And the only little problem with that was I barely had any income at that point in time. So I needed something different and I needed it fast. And so I looked into kind of anything and everything at that point. I was desperate enough that I even thought about getting a job for what would have been the first time in close to 20 years at that point. But I got introduced to Symmetry Financial Group and to Steven Jackson specifically through a friend of a friend who, oddly enough, I had recruited this friend into life insurance, not Symmetry, but into life insurance a few years prior, even though I had never been in insurance and never had any plans to. And funny how things circle around sometimes. Anyway, this friend introduced me to Steven Jackson, was like, hey, I met this guy at my old company, Steven. He's doing this new thing called Symmetry now. He's telling me about it. Sounded pretty cool. I'll get you in touch with him. All right, cool. I'll check it out. So I talked to Steven and immediately was really attracted to Symmetry in terms of like the people and the culture and the core values and all that. I was like, man, this place is pretty cool, actually. I wasn't like turning cartwheels about the idea of selling life insurance. That was definitely much more feeling like, yeah, geez, this is what my life has come to, I guess.
It's
I am selling
it's
insurance
one
now.
of those things, Chris, that there's no second grader ever when their teacher's like, what do you want to do when you grow up? That ever put their hand up is like, I want to sell life insurance. Like it's just not any little kid's dream. So
Nope.
we don't grow up with this like vision of arriving here, even though we find it kind of checks a lot of our boxes. It's never the
Yeah.
dream.
Never the dream. What I think is actually an amazing testament to the company that Symmetry is you do start to hear some stories now around Symmetry of kids of Symmetry people, like second generation Symmetry folks. You hear a couple stories here and there where kids are like, I want to do what you're doing, mom and dad, when I grow up. And I think that's pretty amazing. But yeah, for you and I and most of us here, that was not the dream growing up. What was the dream though that I kind of been captured by years earlier was entrepreneurship. That was about building an incredible life for my family, making an impact on the world, making an impact on other people, building something that could give me time and financial freedom eventually. And that I could easily recognize was all possible here at Symmetry. So I jumped in here. This was, I got contracted with Symmetry, I think on like March 1st of 2020. So Symmetry was an in-home sales model at that point, right? Face-to-face, sitting at people's kitchen tables. I did a week or two of ride-alongs with another agent in Fresno, got to, go to people's houses and sit at their kitchen tables and watch how appointments were run and got trained in that model. Bought my first leads, 50 cent, oldest, cheapest bonus leads, and started hitting the phones. And then, like a week after I started doing that, the entire country went into pandemic lockdown. And so, like the whole rest of the country, we had to, kind of pretty much overnight figure out how to do our business virtually, do this big pivot, which was one of the best things that ever happened to us. I really sucked. It's even sitting here right now, Jim, when you say, man, Chris, you're kind of whatever words you use, kind of an expert in selling life insurance. Like it's really odd to hear that because man, I sucked 5 years ago. I was not good at it. But you can learn, and I did. So I'll pause.
Yeah, I want to see how many in the audience are resonating with one thing in particular. You said you came here because you were looking for something different, but you needed something fast. So put a 2 in the comments if that's you. You came here looking for something different and needing something fast. So we've got a lot of 2s, Chris.
Yep.
Where I want to direct this conversation is I want to direct this conversation directly to those 2s in this comments. Those people that are looking for something different that landed here and want that to work out fast. Talk to
Yep.
them. What
Okay.
lessons did you learn? What did you have to overcome? What would you tell these 2s here now that are looking for something different and want something fast? What would you tell them?
Man, the very first and biggest thing that I would tell all you guys who put 2 in the chat is to make this work, you have to be all in. Okay. That does not mean that you have to be full time, but you do 100% have to be all in. I took my lumps the first few months in this business, like pretty much anybody does. This business has brought me before, I can tell a story my first few months to a, screaming, cussing, crying mess. Okay. This
I
business can,
I only laugh, Chris, because I think I spent a year sleeping next to my wife, worried, sick, literally sick every night that she was going to wake up thinking that she had hitched her wagon to the wrong guy because I couldn't even provide for the family because I came here like you, 6 months of money in my savings account, no backup plan, and a big learning curve. So it
yep.
was that grind of like I don't have the luxury of seeing if this is going to work. It has to. There's a level of pressure I don't wish on anybody, but it's really motivating.
It is really motivating. Yeah, it is really motivating. So, there were tough things to go through in those first few months in that learning curve. But the one thing I had going for me was that day one coming in here, I had made a decision. There was no plan B, no backup plan. Jeremy, I see in the chat there. Exactly that, no backup plan. Okay. Like Jim said, this was working, period. It was this or bankruptcy, and even with this, I still was on the verge of bankruptcy. Within my first year here. Um, so when I had those moments, and the tough moments, and going through the various struggles, I never wasted 1 minute of time asking or wondering, is this going to work? Am I in the right place? Should I be doing something different? I don't know. I did not waste any energy on that because the decision was already made. So it wasn't if, it was always how. It was like, I see the success around me, like I'm surrounded by it. We're drowning in it. If I just open my eyes, I see what's possible. And so how do I get there? So that is my biggest message to people is make a decision, be 100% all in because you cannot succeed at this business if you are not 100% all in.
Can you get practical with us and just kind of describe what all in means? Because we do have a lot of part-time people, right? And so they're
Mhm.
working jobs and they're wearing a lot of hats and they're parents. And so they don't have a lot of time. They got 15 hours, 20 hours, part-time hours to give. So what does all in mean in a context, especially like that?
Yeah. So, especially in a context, yeah, I was full time from day one, but I'll tell you some things about what it looked like for me and kind of relate it to those who are part time as well. I was on every call that I could possibly be on. Now, I understand when you're working part time and you have in my agency, side hustle has become the culture. I didn't start that. One of my agents started that. He works full time for the electric company, and he's like, that's my side hustle. Symmetry is my thing. That's getting me out of my side hustle. So anyway, I know you can't be necessarily on every call live, but be on every one you possibly can and catch recordings on the stuff you can't catch live. So it was plugging in. It was, being in the WhatsApp groups or the group me's or the Slack or, whatever your team or your teams uses, like be plugged into that stuff. It was doing the activity, the massive action part. So, I started buying, 150-cent leads at a time or whatever the heck I could find, right? And dialing and dialing and dialing and dialing some more. And setting my first appointment and the client cancels, and the second appointment and the client cancels the appointment, and the third appointment and the client cancels the appointment. And it's the fourth appointment before I ever even sit with a client, like all that stuff that people go through. Like I went through all of it. Okay. Um, but I think like the constant correction part, there were pieces of it that I had in the beginning, and there were pieces of it that honestly it took me months to get serious about. But what I did have from day one was when I was sitting on all those team calls and watching different trainings and stuff, notes. I'm taking notes. I'm taking notes. I'm writing things down. I have a document to this day that I still take notes when I'm on calls, and it's 400 or 500 pages long at this point of notes that I've taken on calls over the years. But man, I probably put 150 pages in that thing in the first like 6 months here. And then getting really serious at your craft. And there was I had a part of this in the beginning, and there was part of this that took like months and months to really get serious about, and I could have saved myself a lot of pain. Getting really intentional about, all right, the places like where I'm struggling to close some of these sales, or when I hit this objection or this scenario, I feel like I fumble it every time. Like, instead of just being okay with that and being like, just, whatever, I guess that's just the way that this business goes, it is what it is. Like, at some point realizing, like, asking around a few top performers, like, is it like this for you? And finding out, no, they close those ones. And then, all right, talk to me how. And getting really intentional about, like, kind of every week, okay, I'm going to get really good at my role and purpose statement now, because my role and purpose statement kind of stinks with my clients. And so here it is, and I memorize it, and I'm really focusing on delivering it well. And next week, what's the thing? So yeah, that level of intention, man, I could go down so many roads. Personal development is another one I got serious about a few months in.
No, I'll tell you, it's so good to hear this, because I think so often when you've got new people, especially with that maybe haven't decided, so the leads are on trial and mentorship is on trial and the system's on trial, it's so easy to think that the system's broken, the leads don't work, the mentorship doesn't work. When that light bulb goes on 6 months down the road and you look back and you're like, oh, it wasn't the system, it was me. What were a couple of those things for you that you realized, man, I dropped the ball early on, but I figured out, like, what were some of those things that you had to learn to get better to start closing?
Yeah, so I will here, I'll touch on a big one here. Put a 3 in the chat. I'm gonna ask you guys to be a little bit honest here, and I'll be honest, okay? My early times here, when I would get a stack of fresh leads and I'm going through them, I would see those clients over the age of about, I look at their age and I see like 60, 65 years old and above, and I'm like, oh man, put them on the bottom of the stack. Where's the 35-year-olds who are healthy? Now, okay, I'm not the only one. All right. Um, Critical period, mortgage payment protection, as I call it now. I really sucked at closing those ones. I closed maybe like 1 out of 10. And, I just kind of accepted that for a long time, as these ones are just hard and that's the way it is. And finally, at a point, I started being like, man, like, really? And I asked around a couple of other top producers and stuff, like, hey, how many of these do you close? And I found out that their close percentages were much higher on them. And I was like, all right, I am going to dedicate myself. So what language do you use? Like, what stories do you tell? What stuff do you do? Brad Smith has this like old training that's been floating around for years on critical period. That's great. I listened to that one. And I got really intentional. And Jim, as I sit here today, like, mortgage payment protection, those 60, 65-year-old clients, I love them when I get them. I just closed one, literally finished 30 seconds before I hopped on this call. That is 70% of my business now. And for the agents in my agency who like really dive in and learn the process, it's 60, 70% of a lot of their businesses too. Like, truly love them, love them. I get that 70-year-old, I'm like, yes, here comes a sale. So that is one example.
I love that. We had a lot of people that feel that same way, that put threes up there. What did you learn in that period? You mentioned like Brad Smith's script. What was it that you were missing that made it easier down the road, that built your confidence to be like, oh, I'm going to really be able to help this person? Was there like a light bulb moment, or was it just like the cumulative effect of practice?
There were definitely a lot of little, very specific things in the sales process. Like, so I have a story now, the Brad story. It's not Brad Smith, it's a different Brad. I learned this story from Eric Ondrick. I tell this story to every single mortgage payment protection client ever. I'm very big on, you must tell stories to them. So like, that was one. I wasn't telling stories. Asking way more questions and way better questions was another one. The language, I was calling it critical period. We use that around symmetry a lot. Critical period protection. And I would use that language with clients, and it didn't really resonate. It didn't land with them. And then a friend of mine told me mortgage payment protection was the term he used. And I was like, oh, I like that. That just clicks a lot more. I started using that phrase. So it was probably, I mean, 8 or 10 or 12 different little adjustments like that cumulatively, along with practice, like may added up to make a huge difference.
If we've got people that are brand new and they don't know what critical period or mortgage payment protection is, how would you define that concept?
Yeah, so what it is the idea that a lot of our senior clients, so what it is, it's a small permanent life insurance policy that's going to cover their mortgage payments for a few months or a year or two when they pass away. So their family is not sitting there at their funeral, in the case of the client that I just finished with before this, worrying about a $3,000 a month mortgage payment that's due next week. And, mom or dad just passed away, or my spouse just passed away. We just lost their income. How the heck are we going to afford this mortgage payment? Okay. It is buying them time. And, honestly, guys, most of our clients come to us thinking full mortgage payoff. They get the flyer in the mail, regardless of age or health history or whatever. The vast majority of our clients come to us thinking full mortgage payoff. But put a 4 in the chat if you have been in this business long enough to have learned that. I see some 4s in the chat before I even finish the statement. I love our culture around here. Put a 4 in the chat if you have realized that the majority of our clients, like 70-80% of them, I'd say 75-80% of my clients, are not getting a full mortgage payoff. Okay, they're getting less than a full mortgage payoff because either they don't qualify for it or they can't afford it, or both. Okay, so how do we help them? And so Jim, what I had to, it was my mindset was my biggest barrier to my lack of success with mortgage payment protection clients. And my mindset was it was kind of like the consolation prize to do mortgage payment protection with people. I didn't truly see the value in it myself until I really listened to other people like Brad Smith and got the Brad story, which is not Brad Smith, but a different Brad, and just heard different stories and examples and realized, like, having 6 or 12 months worth of mortgage payments coming your way when someone passes away means all the difference in the world for so many of our clients. And when I finally truly grasped that and got passionate about, like, man, we are going to get you protected and this is going to make a big difference. Listen, clients can feel it, right?
Yeah, that's so good. So you mentioned a couple things. You started to go, and I pulled you back and redirected to a different topic. But you mentioned the importance of personal development. Now, that's also a core value of Symmetry. It's one of the things we are pivotal on. And those of us that have gone down the entrepreneurial road for any amount of time
There, they have
know
some.
that we inevitably and always come up against our own lid, our own
Mhm.
emotional stability, our own capacity. What specifically did you need to work on in that personal development, or what tools helped? Why was that such an important part of your success?
Um, I don't even know how to truly convey the level at which I have come to believe that, like, years back in business, I used to think that personal development was like a thing over here, kind of on the side. Like, I kind of noticed that a lot of these successful entrepreneurs and business leaders talk about personal development stuff. That's kind of a thing over there. And I so deeply, deeply, deeply believe that it is the thing. Like, all of our success 100% hinges on personal development, on mindset, on the internals. Okay. So for me, like, specifically, so the first week I was here was the first time, that I heard someone say, like, we're a leadership development company that just happens to sell life insurance. And I was like, that's cute, whatever. Nice little saying. And the thing I love about this business and about this company is I have realized how absolutely true that is. Like, this, I said on the national call a couple weeks ago, like we come in thinking like I'm building a business here, but no, 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 this business is building me,
Mm.
is what's happening. And so truly like sales and making money and insurance and all that like really is kind of I'd say peripheral. Week one here, I also was the first time I heard someone recommend a book, The Miracle Morning. And I waited like 7 months to ever actually pick up and I heard people recommend it all the time. And finally, like after 7 months, I picked the book up, right before Thanksgiving of 2020, read it, and I did my first miracle morning routine on November 30th of 2020. And I became very consistent. So if I was to name one specific thing, I would say it was consistency. It was consistency of every morning my butt was out of bed doing specific activities to grow. Was probably like the biggest thing. We could talk about a lot of specifics, but just consistency was the one. And when I look at a spreadsheet of my results, my sales numbers, my income in this business, there is this notable jump that happens starting in December of 2020. That was not an accident. Okay. That was not an accident. It's because December of 2020 was the first full month that I ever did miracle morning routines. So
I love that so much. I love that line, and a couple people put it in the comments. I'm not building this business, the business is building me. I experienced that so much, man. Just coming up to the limits of, again, that emotional stability, the limits of my stress, my capacity, my ability. And then learning that so much of what I thought I could do was really just wrapped up in my comfort zone, that I was actually capable of a lot more than I thought I could do. I just had to learn that. And one of the things where new agents have to learn that the most is we talk about MACC, M-A-C-C, massive action constant correction. Now, one thing I love bringing guests in here to do is to define massive action and constant correction. Because depending on who you talk to and depending on a person's comfort zone, comfort level, I have people that feel like 300 dials in a week is massive action. I've got people that feel like if they do 50 dials in one sitting, that is massive action. Then we get like a Joe Martinez on here who's like, I'm going to do 1,000 dials by Wednesday because I know I'm not good at this and I simply have to do more than other people. So walk us through when you're talking to your agents about what massive action and constant correction looks like. How do you define those terms?
So massive action is, it's going to vary if you're part-time or full-time, but um, first of all, to set the bar low, I wouldn't even call this massive, but to set the bar low, if you're calling yourself full-time and like week one on the phones, you're not doing 100 dials a day, like what are we doing? Like there is nothing else that you have to do other than to make a crap ton of dials, okay? When you're brand new. But so here I'll Bree Oriard, some people know her name. She's an agency owner in my master agency down under Craig McManaman, Sierra Smith, Marissa Turner. She started here in about February of last year. And she came in and did 1,000 dials a week. And, fast forward, and she was agency owner within her first 7 months here and wrote $200,000 worth of business in her first like 9 months in the business, coming from absolutely zero experience. People are like, oh my gosh, Bree, what'd you do? What'd you do? What'd you do? She's like, I just bought the leads and showed up and made a couple hundred dials a day and like dialed 1,000 dials a week. And I set a bunch of appointments, and I heard everyone say that minimum, I needed to set at least 12 appointments a week, 12 to 15. And she did it. And lo and behold, it turns out when you set 12 to 15 appointments a week, like we tell all our full timers to do all the time, you learn things, you grow, you sell insurance, you gain momentum, you gain confidence, and it all snowballs. So And then the constant correction part, I think, is like intention more than anything. We're getting ready to launch something in our agency like next week that's we're going to kind of raise the bar higher than we've ever had it on what constant correction looks like. But to me, it looks like I'm not allowing myself to be plateaued or like in a rut. So I'm not just sitting floating along like doing the same thing. It's constantly figuring out like how can I get better and working with my agent mentor on like, okay, what's next? What's next? What's next? What do you see? Like where can I get better? Where can I grow from here? Where can I grow from here? Where can I grow from here? And that process never ends. Like I'm 100% in that process right now, as an agency owner, as a leader, and in my own personal sales. Like I'm trying to get better. Um, but I think so to give a couple real practicals, something we're starting to promote a lot in our agency, Jim, is sparring. So getting together with other agents and practicing role playing, like throwing objections at each other and giving each other feedback on like, hey, this sounded really good. Hey, that kind of sucked. Your tonality is good here. This thing that you just said is probably going to throw the client off. Doing that, Darren Stubbs always talks about keeping a should have said journal. I think that's a great one. Like every time you get off the phone or finish an appointment or whatever, and like 30 seconds later, you're like, and you think of that thing you should have just said to the client that hung up on you or whatever, write it down and go back and read through that stuff. And next time you run into that same scenario, that thing that you should have said the last time, it'll be on the tip of your tongue. It'll come.
Man, that's so good. I have a couple of those little things that I did that just practically helped me. One, I'm so ADD. It's very hard for me to sit in one place because I'm always thinking of the next thing. That out of discipline, I had to get two dishes and I put 50 pennies in one. And every time I made a dial, I would move a penny over. And I was not allowed to get out of that seat until I moved those 50 pennies and made those 50 dials. Now, that was the most I could do in one sitting. I could get a 10-minute break. I could go do something. I'd come back. I'd do another 50. But
I
I
love it.
I had to build that discipline. The other thing that I did that was really good for me because it kind of psychologically helped was I've got a big whiteboard over here and I had upcoming appointments and it was 1 through 10. And I had those lines 1 through 10, and I always had to keep that foot filled. I always had to have, at any given moment, I had 10 upcoming
There
appointments.
you
Well,
go.
if someone ghosted me or I ran that appointment, that got erased. And then I had this empty spot that just haunted me. Like someone else got to go in that empty spot. And just the psychology of that helped so much because if I had 5 appointments and I just numbered them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that looks complete. There's no empty haunting spaces begging you to fill it. So for me, it was just a little kind of trick to like, here's
Mm-hmm.
10 open spaces. They always have to be full.
Mm-hmm. I love that. I really, really love it. Like any guys, and we're talking a lot about stuff that relates to personal production here. And your true freedom comes through agency building. And a lot of these principles apply to the activities over there. But look, I'm passionate about personal production because the faster you can pay your bills here, now you create the space and the freedom to really crank it with agency building, and you have the momentum and the glow and the confidence, right? So I don't mind talking about personal production stuff, but want to put it in context for people. But like on the personal production side, appointments are the currency of this business. Honestly, I probably focus on number of dials less than a lot of people. And it's not because I don't think it has value, but honestly, as quickly as possible, I want to get my agents focused on the number of appointment sets. And if you're not getting appointments set, now we're gonna talk about your number of dials, right? And be like, look, get your butt on the phone and do a lot of dials. But in terms of appointment sets, to maybe just kind of throw a little bit of a bar out there, 2021 was a heavy production year for me. A lot of months of that year, I was averaging about 30K net placed in 21, and I was doing it on an average of 18 appointment sets a week. Um, and I had, I was trained on the old in-home model, right? Which back then it was like Friday, Saturday was, dial, like a madman or a mad woman. And then we're going to load Monday and Tuesday with appointments, right? And run really hard in the field because we have to drive places. So we were still kind of all coming out of that school of thought a little bit, right? So 2021, I used to really load my Mondays and Tuesdays. And if I'm setting 18 appointments in a week, I wanted to absolutely come into Monday with at least a dozen appointments already set, and then I'm going to set, six more throughout the week as the week goes. So I would often get a jump on it on Friday and set maybe 2 to 4 on Friday. Occasionally I wouldn't get a jump on it, but I would come Saturday. And man, I love Saturdays for getting a hold of people. And so I'd be at my desk at 8:30, 9 a.m. on Saturday, and it was dial until. It was like I am going into Monday with a dozen appointments. So whatever, if I set 2 yesterday on Friday, then I've got 10 more to set Saturday. And man, it's different now in a virtual world. I approach it a little bit differently these days, but it it pains me sometimes, and maybe this is just my organization, when I'm watching agents and it's like, oh man, I set 3 appointments today in a day, and everyone's like, dude, you're killing it. And I want to celebrate the activity, but at the same time, I'm like, man, in 2021, if I set less than 8 appointments on a Saturday, like that was like a low Saturday. But I came in and I knew like, all right, great. I got 5 done on Friday. So I only need 7 more today, Saturday. Cool. Maybe I'll be done by 2 p.m. and yay, now it's the weekend. But if I had to sit at my desk till 4 or 5 p.m. Saturday, because that's what it took, or, I've got to set 12 appointments today. I had a lot of Saturdays where I set 10 or 12 appointments on a Saturday. So, like, man, just get a bunch of leads and sit your butt down and dial until you got the appointments you need.
I love that. You talked about, and I love the way you position personal production in the context of building and passive income. Put a 5 in the comments if your vision for your symmetry business involves building and passive income.
I'm putting a 5 in there.
Right. I think a lot of us have that vision, but there often for so many people is a pause when they come in and they're like, I need to prove this system. I need to get good at this before I invite other people into this. Those people that put a 5 that they want the passive income, but they've not yet started building because they're in the learning curve on production themselves. What do you say to them?
I say you have it all backwards. That it's yeah, like the whole I need to prove it. The problem is as soon as you come in with I need to prove it, you are disproving it because we're drowning in success. I'm sorry, open your eyes. Open your eyes, sit on calls, listen to the stories. And if you can't, like, belief is our number one cornerstone, right? We have 4 cornerstones at Symmetry. Belief is number one. If you can't believe the success that you see all around you, then check out and do something else. Like you have to have that cornerstone in place. And if it's in place, then put your money where your mouth is, so to speak, by building. Okay. I promise you this thing works. And by the way, Jim, I'll give you a little soapbox of mine that is not right on track, but it came to mind earlier. Hear people say all the time, this business is hard, it's hard, it's hard, it's so hard, it's hard, it's hard, it's hard. Like, yeah and no. I mean, there's some hard parts, there's some struggles you go through, and I want to always be 100% transparent and authentic about it. Again, I said earlier, like, look, this business has brought me to my knees cussing and crying, okay? But it's not supposed to stay hard. Like, it's supposed to get easy. And that's what massive action and constant correction takes you to, is it getting easy. So start building from day one. Look, those of you who have been around for a minute, you've heard the name Craig McManaman, okay? He's direct to me. I've had a front row seat to watch this for the last 3 years. He sold his first policy to a lead on May 19th of 2022. And about 3 weeks later, he started building his agency. Look, Craig McManaman then wasn't Craig McManaman today, okay? He had the same energy and passion and fire. Dude didn't know hardly a thing about how to sell a life insurance policy. He did not know the first thing about running a life insurance agency, but he didn't have to. He didn't wait. Like he filled two buckets, interviews and appointments every week, did them both, massive activity, and he learned everything along the way. And 3 years later, I mean, so he hits 130 in barely over 2 years, because you can do that here if you just use the resources and system available to you and show up and do the work. So why would you wait?
I love that. What's next for you, Chris?
What's next is 130 for me, because
Let's
I
go.
didn't build nearly as hard and fast as Craig McManaman in my first couple years here, which anyway, I won't get into that story because we're out of time. But 130 is next for me. So I wanted to start the run in March. We barely missed it by about 2,000 bucks. We are reloading to hopefully start here in May. And you know what? There's me bumping up against my lid. There's my lid is just right here trying to become that leader that leads a 130 agency as well.
Love that. When you look at what that lid is and what the obstacles are in your way, what do you identify? What are those obstacles? And I ask you this question, putting you on the spot, because every single one of us is at a place in business where we're learning, we're growing, we've got obstacles. And so I want people to see, like, you can come on here, you can come on a call, you still have not arrived, you're still facing obstacles, you still have goals, you're still growing in a long line of growing and hitting goals and hitting obstacles and overcoming. So you've got your goals set here, you've kind of hit your lid. What are those obstacles that are keeping you from the next level?
I would say it is that still far more than I would like to admit. I know the most important things I need to get done next for my business, and I let the tyranny of the urgent crowd out those most important things. And so what I intend to get done in 1 month ends up taking 3 months. Um, there's that. And there's still more than I would also like to admit. Um, Letting whatever is going on around me in life, personal stuff, family stuff, whatever, affect to a degree the way in which I show up for my agents and how present I am with them, how much of my heart they do or do not get, because when I'm there with them, they need my best. And quite honestly, they don't always get my 100% best. So being able to like have the inner stability to stay grounded in whatever's happening in life, but when I'm here with my agents, like 100%, they get my best energy is still a growth area.
Man, that is really, really transparent, wise, and self-aware. I didn't expect those answers and really loved them. That was awesome, Chris. Dude, thank you for your time. If we can, in the comments, guys, Chris does not give us his time, so people will clap and go, "Oh, that was a good call." He wants to know that he made an impact, that someone's going to take something from this, apply it to their business to be able to go hit the next level. Can you go in the comments and tell Chris what you're going to take away from this and actually use? Um, and then Chris, I want you to just take a minute and just look at the comments as they come in here. We're honored by you. We appreciate you. This call is going to be up on our YouTube channel tomorrow. So if you need to see the replay, or if you have team members that need to see the replay, this will be up there in our library. You can always grab it. And any comments you miss here, Chris, I will send you the transcript, because I want you to see and know the impact that you made. We're really honored by your time, buddy. Really appreciate you. Larson Life Group. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I really appreciate all the kind words from everyone. Jim, thank you. Thank all you guys for having me. Like, truly, it's an honor. I really have so much respect for this team. So thank you.
Love it. All right, Larson Life Group, I love you all. You should all have my number. My favorite agents are the ones that blow up my phone the most. If we have not talked this week, it's because you haven't tried. I am not the guy that's going to blow up your phone and ask how you're doing. I'm going to treat you as an adult and assume you're doing great until you put your hand up and say you need help. So again, if we haven't talked, it's because you haven't tried. I am fully available for every single one of you, and I appreciate you all so much. All right. Good night, all.